In a world where trust is shattered and love is tested, one channel dares to uncover the untold stories of heartbreak and betrayal. Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles, where real-life tales of infidelity are unraveled, secrets exposed, and lives forever changed. Join us as we navigate the complex world of relationships, offering support, understanding, and a place for those who have faced the pain of betrayal. Subscribe to Heartbreak Chronicles now, because every story deserves to be told, and every heartbreak deserves to be heard. Story 1. I married my best friend last year. We've been together for 8 years, and it's been the most amazing and fulfilling relationship I've ever had. We had the perfect life. We have the cutest little puppy, and she's the most loyal and loving little creature I've ever met. We've been saving for a house in our dream city, and we were just about ready to pull the trigger this year. We were planning to adopt afterwards. We finally paid off all our student loans. We have amazing friends and hobbies that we're both passionate about. We did everything together, dates multiple times a week, every weekend for sure, and usually a few during the week as well, road trips and vacations and events. We stayed up late every night cuddling and talking about our future together. We have a million little inside jokes, and we sent flirty texts to each other all day. We had an amazing sex life, every one of our fantasies, every day, often multiple times a day. We made it through graduate school and the pandemic and all sorts of other tumultuous life events together. I work from home, and I took care of all the house chores so she didn't have to. I took care of the dog, I did the training and the walking and the feeding so that she wouldn't have that extra stress. I make 4x her salary so that she can work her dream job. I've never complained about any of this, and being able to do all these things for her always made me so proud and happy so that she could fulfill her own professional dreams. And she still cheated on me. She cheated with a coworker she's only known for a few months, who is way younger than her, and who is her subordinate at work. I told her I would be willing to work through it in therapy together, that I could forgive her because our life was so amazing. And she told me she was so sorry and would do anything to make things right, that she had never meant to hurt me. But I found out last week that she is still cheating on me with him. And when I confronted her, she became unrecognizable. She was verbally abusive and yelled at me and told me that she had never loved me or our puppy. She told me that she had just been using me all along, and now that she'd found someone else, she didn't need me anymore, and that she didn't feel any remorse or guilt and had only pretended to apologize when she got caught the first time so that she could keep using me for money. I should be angry, but I just feel so sorry for her. I'm still going to have an amazing life. I took our dog, my dog now I guess, and moved out. I'm still going to be buying that house, alone now. All my friends, also our friends, and even her friends, have been so supportive. Even her family has been so supportive of me. She's losing a lot of friends. She's losing me, her best friend, at the very least. She might lose her job. She can't afford rent where she's living either way. She always liked expensive shoes and clothes and hobbies and going out to eat, and now she can't have any of that. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but she doesn't return my calls anymore, so I guess this is it. I'll never understand what happened or why she gave up on our life together out of nowhere like this. Update. I was completely overwhelmed by the response to my original post, and was so busy dealing with the fallout of my wife's affair to respond to everyone's messages. So a quick apology to anyone's DM I didn't respond to. I've never gotten hundreds of messages before on any platform, but I did see them and they did help me feel less crazy, so thank you everyone. As many of you predicted, she tried to come back. Multiple times in fact. The last 2 months have been insane in a lot of ways for me. I encouraged her to see a therapist, and she was diagnosed with a personality disorder. She didn't tell me the specifics, but my own therapist suspects borderline personality disorder, for what it's worth. I still love and care about her so much that every time she called me sobbing telling me she hadn't meant it and would do anything to make things right again, I fell for it and told her I would help any way I could. In retrospect, it was so bizarre and entrancing, seeing these glimpses of the person I used to know, reaching back out to me in such obvious pain. And so every time she told me, stone-faced, a few days after apologizing, that she hadn't meant the apology and had only said it to manipulate me and had faked the tears. It hurt so much more, having just seen these glimpses of the wonderful person I knew for 8 years. I got so lost in trying to help her during these isolated moments of normalcy that I lost track of how many times she abruptly switched her entire attitude towards me. It was only recently that I went back and counted. 15 times that she switched between telling me that she loves me and had learned from her mistake and couldn't wait to hold me again, and telling me that she had no regrets, had never loved me, and that she had only ever been manipulating me. At one point during one of her days of normalcy, she told me that, when she thought back on how she had treated me, she felt like she had been kidnapped by aliens and replaced with a body double, like she had been watching an evil version of herself destroy my life while she watched helpless from space. And then when I called her a few days later and she started yelling at me for not being good enough and telling me that she was busy with her affair partner, I reminded her of her alien story. She told me that she didn't remember telling me that she would never say something so dumb, but if she had, it would have only been to manipulate me. I've never been a victim of abuse before this, so it took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to realize what she was doing to me. I always thought when I saw other people being treated so poorly, wow, I would never let that happen to me. But when I was actually in that situation, all I could think of was how I could help her. I always try to see the best in people, and as far as I know, this is the first time someone who is close enough to me to know that has purposefully taken advantage of it to keep hurting me with no intention of stopping. It still feels so strange, like I hallucinated the last 8 years of my life. But I filed for divorce this week. I didn't respond to her last call. I know exactly how it would have gone, the apologies, swearing she would make things better, that she loves me so much. And then a few days later, the shouting and the abuse and telling me that I wasn't good enough for her and that she had never loved me. Also, in some DMs people mentioned something about hearing about my original post from my TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, so I guess someone is impersonating my throwaway account, which is strange. Just a heads up, if anyone is personally invested in my story at all, this is the only place online that I'm writing about it. Any other accounts are not me. Also, a quick update for all the kind people wondering how I'm doing personally. I've been having a blast going on adventures with my dog. My friends have all been taking turns reaching out every day. My family has been amazingly supportive. My manager told me to take a month off work to sort myself out, and it was super refreshing. Being back at work afterwards has been great. My coworkers have been hyping me up and checking in with me at lunch. I was able to get back to some old hobbies I'd dropped because of the pandemic, and made some new friends there. It's been good. I'm good. Story 2. Me found out my wife has been cheating on me, don't know what to do. Let me start with some backstory. We've been together for almost 17 years, have 3 kids and an old house we've been slowly restoring over the last 2 years, and our budget is not the greatest, no savings and lots of debt. She's the only woman I've ever been with, and before me, she had only a couple of one-night stands, so we were both little experienced when we met. She's been the light of my life, and we've gone through some difficult times together and always have been there for another. I thought we were one of the few who managed to stay on course no matter what. Apparently I was wrong. With all that was going on, trying to fix the house, both working full-time, trying to make ends meet and to make sure the kids are doing fine, we kinda lost ourselves. The bad financial situation and health-related issues didn't help either. My wife had been trying to lose weight for a long time, but nothing seemed to work for her and her self-esteem was down to the floor. We were both depressed, but instead of talking and consoling one another, we suffered in silence. I buried my nose in computer games to hide from our problems while she had her nose in her phone all the time. This spring and summer, things started going worse. She was spending more time with her friends and going partying, while I stayed at home with the kids. I thought that if I let her blow off some steam that she would come home in a better mood, but that didn't work at all. I tried to ignore the bad feeling that was starting to sink in my stomach. I had heard a rumor that she had been seen kissing some dude at a dance in a nearby town. I confronted her about it, but she denied and said that the guy had tried to kiss her, but she pushed him away. I was not fully convinced, but didn't want to push her too much as I was trying to let her see that I trusted her. Yet as the summer passed, I noticed she was getting way more protective and secretive about her phone. After seeing by chance what her FB password was one night on August 22nd, I decided to take a look to see if I could find anything about that dance earlier that summer. What I found was way worse. I saw that indeed she had been kissing some dude drunk as hell until her friend pulled her out of it, but that's nothing compared to what I saw next. I accessed her Messenger and Skype. I found out that she had been chatting online with 2 foreign guys, and B, for months. It had started on Instagram. Some random dude, A, sent her some flattering messages and she started talking to him on Skype after that in early June. After only speaking to him for less than 2 weeks, she started sharing with him nude photos after only resisting a bit. The incident with the guy she kissed happened later that month. She was chatting with this guy up until the middle of August, when he showed his real intention. He was a scammer with a stolen account and was just sending her pictures from that stolen profile. Yet she had been fooled enough to share with him pictures of her most intimate parts. She seemed like she was falling in love with him. By then she had already started to talk to Guy B, which also started on Instagram. Didn't take long for that to evolve to nude pictures and sexual talk. In both cases they were fantasizing about them coming to our country and meeting with my wife at a hotel. She never spoke ill of me or anything like that, just talked about me like I was just there. If they asked, she said that I treated her well, but then she went on to tell them how she liked to talk to them and they made her feel good. The worst is yet to come. In one of the chats with a female friend of hers I found some more disturbing things. They went together to a 2-day town festival in another nearby town in early July, stayed at a rented room, which I of course had agreed to and thought would be okay, and I knew that my wife's friend who has trouble with panic attacks had needed to stay overnight at the local hospital. But what I didn't know and saw in that chat between them was that she mentioned a 41-year-old guy from our own town, a married man with kids, who was unhappy in his relationship and she had met him that night. He had come over to chat and had tried to go all the way, but my wife told her friend that she had stopped him. She didn't mention the name, but I found out a likely suspect as our town is small, and I also found in my online phone records that she had sent a message to a number belonging to a guy that fit the description. I feared the worst. I didn't let my wife know what I had found yet, as I was afraid what would happen while the kids were around, so I put up a mask and waited until Saturday the 24th of August to confront my wife. I had called my mother and got her to take care of the kids. My wife is taking some classes to get some form of degree for her work, and when she came home from class I asked her calmly to sit with me and I told her about what I knew. There was no violence, yelling or bad-mouthing. Just two sad people, one of them angry and hurt, and we talked the whole night. She promised that nothing had happened between her and seeing what she had done online was only to try boosting her self-esteem a bit, as she thought I had stopped loving her. She didn't exactly try to blame me for it, nor did she yell at me for snooping around. She said she thought I didn't like her anymore because she wasn't losing weight, and when those guys started raining compliments on her she said she got addicted. She said she didn't mean to hurt me, she was selfish and tried to please them as she could so they would keep complimenting her, therefore sending them nude pictures. She told me that she saw it now that she had been cheating on me, but she hadn't realized it while she was doing it, even though she knew she was doing something wrong. I wanted to believe her, I truly did. But I had concerns. We decided to try to fix our marriage and seek counseling. As the weeks passed, things seemed to be getting better. She's been way more affectionate to me and caring. Our sex life has been great and we've been spending way more time together than before. I still had a growing feeling in my stomach that she was hiding some critical information from me, and after our second meeting with the marriage counselor last week, she finally admitted the truth. She admitted what I had suspected and feared but deeply hoped hadn't happened. She had indeed slept with C that night in July. And even though she said she had felt bad afterwards and shameful, she still kept talking to him via social media. She admitted to having met with him twice after that, but nothing more than a bit of kissing. She even tried to contact him again a few days after I had confronted her in August. My first response after that was simply freezing. I didn't yell or curse or anything. I didn't harm her in any way. I partly felt relieved that she had finally admitted what I suspected, but at the same time I felt humiliated and hurt beyond anything I've ever felt before. I didn't want to rush to anything, so I haven't thrown the ring in her face yet, nor have I confronted the other guy, as I don't want to be the person to rat on him to his wife or make myself get arrested for assault. Besides, it wasn't him that broke my marriage contract, it was my wife. I don't know what to believe anymore. The woman I thought I knew would never do something like this. She's been trying to convince me that she was an idiot and selfish and whatnot, and that she feels really bad about hurting me like that. She says she's ready to do anything to fix the situation and to get me to trust her again and feel like she's worthy again. Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever trust her again or see her with the same eyes. I do love her, of course, and I like to be around her and see her smile. But at the same time it stings my heart. I want this to work because of the kids and our shitty financial situation, as we can't afford going through divorce, but I fear that I will lose myself and never gain any self-respect if I go through with this. How the hell can I forgive her for cheating on me with not only one guy but 3? Well, 4 if you count that one time she kissed a random guy. She was both emotionally as well as physically cheating with all of them for some period of time. Not just a one drunk night mistake, but some kind of emotional and sexual relationship with 3 guys for over 2 months. Doesn't matter if 2 of those relationships were online. She still planned to meet with them, knowing fully what would happen if they did. Has anyone here gone through anything similar to this and has some good advice? I know it's easy to say, just divorce her man and move on, but it's not that simple. I still have feelings for her and I don't know what will happen with our kids and our families. I also fear that if I divorce her, which will mean that her family and friends will know the truth, that she will harm herself or at least be in a mental state where she will have a bad influence on our kids. We also have an unfinished house and no savings and need at least to finish fixing it in order to get any cash out of selling it. Update. But after getting lots of great comments from you guys as well as talking with my closest friends, I got enough encouragement to gain some faith in myself. I finally opened my eyes to what I had thought deep down, that there was no chance in hell that I would ever gonna get over what my wife did, so I decided last Thursday to tell her I wanted to end this marriage. I think she knew it was coming as she didn't seem that surprised. She didn't even try to persuade me or anything. Just went like a broken record. Nothing I say will change anything whenever I asked her to say anything. There was lots of crying and she called in sick to work. We have since then been telling our closest friends and family about the incoming divorce, but she has been incredibly hesitant to admit what she did to her parents. My mother knows everything, but I for some reason agreed to not tell the in-laws about what happened yet. Maybe I'm afraid of a war between my soon-to-be ex-wife and me, so I agreed to give her time to tell them. When we met them last Sunday, we told them about the divorce, but as we had to leave 2 of our kids with them for 3 days due to school holiday, it didn't feel like the right time to come clean about their daughter's multiple affairs. Instead, we told them that there were some unsolvable disagreements, which felt really bad for me to say, because they seemed so disappointed. They have been part of my family for almost 17 years and I care about them, and they have been really supportive to us through the years, both financially, and they love spending time with our kids. I felt really bad about lying to them, but I'm afraid that if I go and spill the beans, my soon-to-be ex-wife will become hostile and make the divorce process that much harder. But my patience is not limitless. I will tell them eventually if my wife doesn't come clean soon. I don't want the real reasons for the divorce to go public either, as we live in a small society and the truth would eventually find its way to my kids and they might get picked on because of it. I'd rather for the truth to remain with our closest friends and family, while the official explanation would be that we divorced due to growing apart, wanting different things, etc. I also don't want to be known as the poor guy who had his wife porked by another guy. Now there are some big loose ends to tie. We need to sell our house and find apartments for ourselves. The custody will be shared where I will have the kids for a week and their mother for the other week. I also feel like their legal address should be with me, so I won't have to pay her child support. Would be unfair after what she did. I have no idea how this will end, but often in my country, the mother tends to get what she wants, as everyone always feels sorry for them. I will fight for my kids though. Story 3. My fiance and I agreed to have an open relationship a year ago, but I want to close it because I suspect he is secretly forming an emotional relationship with one woman he's been sexual with. My fiance and I agreed to open our relationship last year. He's 30 and I'm 28. We agreed the rules would be that we could sleep with others, but we would only have an emotional relationship with each other. We are due to marry this summer. I have decided that I no longer wish to continue and want to close the relationship because I feel that it's affecting our relationship. I'm still determining how to do this. I have had purely sexual relationships with 4 men and that was it. Nothing more. He was having sex with around 4 or 5 women, but there was nothing more to it. I have now discovered that he has been sleeping with just one woman for at least 3 months. After some snooping over a day or two, I have found evidence that he is meeting her for evenings out and lunch. He WhatsApps her daily. He is emotionally involved. I'm still unsure to what extent. But I'm furious because I have now found that he is taking her on a work trip with him. He never said that he was not traveling alone. I have to put a stop to this before it happens. I want him to end it with her. I've had enough. How do I confront him? He's violated what we agreed on and we must stop. I don't want to marry him knowing he's emotionally attached to another woman. We promised each other that we would put each other first. Update. He went to her place on Friday after work and said he'll return on Saturday. However, he informed me on Saturday that he'll return on Sunday. I asked him why, and he said that this woman was ill and had a migraine coming on, so he wanted to ensure that she was fine before he left her place. I told him that I knew he was bullshitting and making excuses, as she doesn't need him to hang around with her to recover from a migraine. He said he was not lying, and that she was truly unwell. He promised to return by Sunday afternoon, which he did. I told him soon after that I knew what he was up to. I knew all that was going on and the extent of his romantic relationship with her, which we both agreed was off limits. We were only allowed to have sexual partners and no emotional relationships with others. He was somewhat surprised that I knew the details about his trips and evenings out with her, and I admitted to him that I had in fact looked at his email and WhatsApp messages. He was furious and refused to talk further, but then I told him I knew he was hiding something and I needed to know what he was up to. He calmed down and then came up to me and told me that he had been thinking about us and had come to the conclusion that he did not want to marry me. I asked him if he was calling off the engagement. He said he was done with the relationship altogether. After arguing over this and his cheating, he admitted that his decision was linked to his relationship with this woman. He said that he was indeed in love with her now and accepted that he had cut out all other sexual partners because he was emotionally involved with her. He even went to the extent of saying that he felt very loved when with her, that it meant the world to him that he was the only man in her life and she was fully and completely focused on him. He added that he wanted to be able to reciprocate and had therefore decided that he was going to do just that and commit to her. I said I wanted to close the relationship and be only with him and that I had realized that the open relationship was not working for us. He said no, because he felt unable to end his relationship with her, and that he simply did not care to try with me anymore as everything had changed far too much. I reminded him that he agreed to open the relationship and was sleeping with several women. Now he was blaming me for what was mutually agreed. He said he wasn't blaming anyone and that he thought it would work out fine, but after a while it all started feeling empty and he felt pathetic sleeping around with others. He said it felt meaningless and that he felt like shit. He said he didn't want a life like that and he wanted and preferred complete commitment. He did not apologize for his decision and emotionally cheating behind my back. I told him that he was ending years of commitment and an engagement for a 3-month fling and he snapped that it wasn't a fling. I couldn't believe he was speaking this way, very cold and indifferent toward me. He didn't outright say it, but he is seriously considering moving in with her. After only 3 months. I feel devastated, but the way he spoke to me has left me feeling empty. I don't know whether to wait for him to wake up and see that he's rushing this relationship with her and abruptly walking out on our life and home together, or to let him go and see if he ever comes back to me. I know that pushing him will serve little purpose, as he is determined to stay with her for now. What do I even do? I feel too shocked and confused to react to anything, and spent the entire night awake, trying to work out what happens now. We were due to marry later this year. I can't even bear to think about canceling what we'd planned for our future and telling people that it's off. I have so much on my mind and I am struggling to cope. TLDR, my fiance and I had an open relationship that was initially exclusive. He secretly began an emotional affair with one of his sexual partners and now claims to be in love with her. He outright refused to cut her out of his life and now wants to be exclusive with her and call off our wedding. I think he's simply infatuated, having been with her for only 3 months. Is this something that I can save? Should I wait for him to see if he realizes this? Should I leave and see if this has any effect? Story 4. Kicked out my pregnant cheating girlfriend. A bit about us. We're both in our 30s and have just moved to a whole new city across the country a few months ago, as I had been offered a much better paying job in an area that has generally lower living costs, as well as it being a nice area to raise a child. She is currently 7 months pregnant with what I thought to be my child. I was initially shocked since we always used protection or I pulled out, but after having some time to think about it I was ecstatic. It was the perfect time in our lives for kids. I just finished the last payments on my flat as well as being a strong contender for the job I currently have. Anyway, recently she has been very distant and reserved. I just chalked that up to pregnancy hormones, but during breakfast she seemed even more distant and quiet than usual, so I asked her what was up a few times until she yelled that she doesn't always have to answer me and walked away. Right, whatever, I was late for work so I went on my way. I got a message around lunchtime asking me if I could leave the lab early because there was something very important she wanted to talk about and didn't want to do it after I got home after a long day. So I finished up my work and okayed it with my boss and went home, picking up some subs for us on the way. To cut a long story short and beating around the bush short, she told me that while I was working hell week at the lab she met a guy during a night out with some work friends and one thing led to another and they ended up sleeping together. This carried on for a week or two, supposedly because I was always working and not spending enough time with her. I worked 14-hour days during that time and just wanted to come home and sit. She mentioned how he lied about using a condom by saying he was using ultra-thin ones and didn't realize what he did until she felt it. The time of this fits in with when she was up the duff. I can't describe how angry I felt after she told me. I got up and threw her sub into the bin and left the house to go for a drive to a friend's so I could calm down. I returned home the next morning and demanded we book an appointment for a prenatal paternity test, which she was initially very much against but eventually gave in and agreed. I booked an appointment that morning for the following week and I stayed with my mate until the day. I took the afternoon off work and drove us there in silence, aside from her crying and apologizing. Got the procedure over with and dropped her back and went back to my mate's until results day. Well, we got the results back today and guess what? It turns out I am not the father of that little sprog. I drove us home and demanded she get out and start packing because I wanted her out before I got back from work, picking my stuff up from my friends. She was hysterical and saying how I couldn't just leave her alone and homeless while she was so close to the due date and so far away from home, and that she really loved me and wanted me to raise this bastard child with her because it's the only way it'll have a decent life. I never made it into work. I drove into a field, rang my boss to tell him what happened, and he told me to take as much time as I needed and he'd have a PhD student cover my work. I stayed there for hours just laying in the seat and cried at how everything had fallen apart. I had just gotten my life in order, everything was stable and ready to go for the baby. We even finished designing the baby's room. I switched my phone back on and saw I had several missed calls and voicemails, a few from her, some from her family and a couple from my mate telling me to come to his as soon as I could. I rang my mate up, filled him in and went over to his house. And that's what's happened so far. I haven't gone back to the house yet. I just can't bring myself to go back there knowing that all the plans I had for it are dead. I have no idea what to do anymore. What should I do? Reddit. I apologize in advance if my rambling wall of text is difficult to read. I just wanted to get it all out and have been typing on my tablet. TLDR, girlfriend cheated on me and lied about it being my baby, so I threw her sandwich in the bin and kicked her out. Quick update, I'm so sorry for the late reply, but I've been sorting things out with a solicitor and her family. I took the advice and after calming down bought her a one-way coach ticket back home. The morning after this went down I went to the house with my friend with me and she was still there, which I expected. She immediately waddled over and started hugging me and crying, begging not to end our relationship. I stayed with my initial feelings of wanting her to get the hell out of here. I gave her the piece of paper with the coach ticket and then told her to gather her stuff so I can drop her off at the coach station. After much more crying she packed her suitcase and I loaded it into the car and drove us to the coach stand. After getting her out of the car with even more crying and sitting her down in the waiting room, she asked me what she's meant to do now as a jobless, homeless single mother. My response was, FKU Jenny, go to Zach. It's his problem now. Just kidding. I told her that she should try to find the father, wished her the best and left. I had a few calls from her family asking me if I was out of my effing mind, etc., but I've had my phone off since then and I'm just trying to move forward. I might make a proper update on the weekend and turn my phone back on. But for the time being I'm trying to focus on work to catch up on everything. Thank you all so much for your support. This truly is an amazing community and I didn't expect this to blow up like it has.